To enable VMray and Cortex integration, we need to add the content pack from the marketplace. You can either find it via the URL here, or alternatively, you can search for it via the marketplace tab via your own Cortex installation. Once we click on that, we can add it to the cart. We can then quickly install it. A few moments later, we'll be able to go in and configure it. As you can see here, we can give it a name. Server URL we can leave as is, and then we just need to add an API key. The API keys can be found or generated, via VMray. Into settings, analysis, brings you to this page. We then go to the API keys and create a new API key. Give it a name, set the automation category, very useful to ensure the new Seca dashboards are going to start showing alerts and your verdicts in the right place. And then we can come down here. Now, one feature I like in VMray is that we can configure many things per API key. So instead of having to worry about a integration running away with us, chewing up all the quota or sending too many samples, we can start configuring things slowly and then build up. Now, reports and verdicts, well, a verdict is the clean, suspicious or malicious. For an integration like this, that's most commonly what you're going to look for. The actual report, the indicator of compromise, all that valuable stuff, certainly you may want to enable it. The content pack does include the ability to start sharing that stuff, but while testing, maybe you just want to use verdicts. Down here, we have a few other settings. We've got the analyzer modes you can set, reputational, static and dynamic. Dynamic, of course, is what we do so well with our virtual machines, detonating these samples and automating all that valuable content being pulled out. Static analysis, very, very useful as well, analyzing the file without detonation. A reputational lookup is the first round. That's when we look up the hashes and the URLs with our third-party provider. You can disable that, and of course it's important to understand that those file hashes and URLs will be sent to the cloud, but it's incredibly valuable, so I personally would leave it enabled. You may also want to play around with your triage settings. Triage allows us to configure the system to say that if reputational and static analysis comes back with a suspicious verdict, then skip dynamic analysis. There's no need. Of course, you can go in later on via VMray and manually resubmit the file, put it through dynamic analysis if you'd like, or of course dynamic analysis using live interaction if you'd like to actually work with the sample yourself, but again, something you want to play around with later on. Once you've configured your API key, hit save. You will then be shown the API key on the previous page. You can then come in here and add the API key. Of course, we have a test button, and as you can see there, success. Everything's working fine. If you run into any issues, please get in contact with VMray support. We are always happy to help and get these things configured. But as you can see, it's very straightforward, just a URL and an API key, so shouldn't have any problems there. Once you're done, hit save and exit. Now that everything is configured and installed, we've seen the playbooks, let's make use of them. Now, this is a testing instance, so of course there's not much traffic going to it, but we can manually go and create an incident. Give it a name, strange download, and we're going to use our VMray playbook, detonate file. Perhaps someone has provided us with, let's say, this zip file. Now, of course, I know that this is malicious. It's one that we use for our demonstrations, but I can add it here, hit create incident. Because we've set that playbook, when we go back into that incident a few moments later, we'll see this down here under indicators. Now that's Blue Sky malware. We know it's malicious. We've used this sample many times before, and very quickly VMray has come back and said that. And as you can see, there's no denying it is a malicious file. Now we've enabled, configured and tested the VMray Cortex integration, we can go and have a look at the playbooks that it provides. The three main playbooks you're going to see: detonate file, detonate URL and file enrichment. I'll just briefly walk you through these. The first two, detonate file and detonate URL, of course, behave most the same way. Just checking, is there an instance? Is there something to detonate? Send the file to VMware, get the submission, start polling, and then get the analysis. And finally, is it suspicious or malicious? We can get the thread, we can get the indicators of compromise, and then we can push those back into Cortex. So these both pretty much look the same. As you can see, very straightforward, very easy, and you can edit and clone these as you see fit. And then the file enrichment, as you can see here, we're just pulling out the hashes. So of course we're searching VMware based on the hash of a file. So could be very valuable if you've been using VMware some time and of course you built up a library. Of course, if you're being hit by a sustained attack, a campaign, a targeted campaign, this is when it'll be very valuable to check the file enrichment.